All right, welcome to the Anton Stentner podcast. And I just have one question for you. What the heck happened yesterday?
My phone is ringing, and it's ringing again, and it's ringing again. And one of them is my partner, and he doesn't call that much. And I go, oh my goodness. So I answer it, and he goes, hey, our project in Everett on Lombard burned down. And I go, what? And there's this moment of shock where I'm like, no, come on. That's not real. He's like, no, like it's burned to the ground. And I go, are we okay? And he goes, I think so. I go, is everyone around it okay? He goes, yeah. I said, how'd this happen? He goes, I don't know. I'm driving there right now because it's still dark out. You know, it's early in the morning, and the fire happened at like 1 a.m. And bless the Everett Fire Department. They were freaking phenomenal. So they were, I guess their firehouse is over on like 16th and McDougal. So it's not that far away. They were there within 3 minutes of getting the phone call. And what I was told was one of the captains that was driving was like, he literally just backed down the alley without even hooking up to the fire hydrant, turns the water cannon on and starts just dousing this thing. Later on in the day, when we see the video, the flames were 60 feet tall. And we get video from a business that's across the alley of this kid running down the alley and the flames starting to shoot out the windows. And Tony sends this to me, and I just literally text back WTF. And he's like, I think this is arson. Well, I was like, well, obviously it had to be arson because the home wasn't done. So the home was literally, there's 2 homes in a backyard. They're what's called DADUs, a detached accessory dwelling unit. So we had 2 homes basically starting to get built. They were framed up. The plumbing had been put in. The windows were on. The one on the south, the one on the north didn't have windows yet. The doors showed up today at 1 a.m. yesterday morning. Someone walked in, probably picked up, we now know it's a 20-year-old male, picked up the scrap, plumbing, because the plumbing was just done, probably put it up against the wall, threw accelerant on it, and just toasted the thing. It burned that structure all the way to the ground. They torched the home next to it. The part of the sheeting is burned. It's black. The home in front of it, the original home on the north, all of the siding melted. The roof vents melted. The freaking Santa can, the honey bucket? The honey bucket looked like a squish. You know when you step on a can, it's completely flat? The honey bucket melted to this flat disc. The property to the north, which is, it's freaking 50, 60 feet away, its gutters started melting, its gazebo crushed in, and there's embers flying everywhere. So this burned out of control. Thank God no one was hurt. And now we got to go through this process of like, okay, how are we going to deal with this with insurance? How far is this going to set us back? How much money are we going to lose? Because you're losing money any way you look at it. And what do we got to do to fix this? And how do we make that happen? Because we've always like carried insurance and had backup plans. We've never had to use it. And what's funny is the day before, someone pulled up in a U-Haul and was like robbing wood off the site. So we get robbed a little bit the day before, and then some idiot burns it down the next day.
Crazy. And this all happened in Everett. So obviously this is one of your rental properties that you're building or going to be a rental. You're going to sell it.
Yeah. So we bought it as a development project. We knew we were going to build 2 homes in the backyard. And yes, we did rent the front yard. Thank God it wasn't rented. That we had just moved them out to start fixing that property too.
Yeah. And so I guess today, obviously you just shared the story. We're going to talk about what you're doing to deal with the insurance side of it, as well as just like what you guys actually have to do. So what's the first thing you do after you visit the property? You realize what just happened. You hear the story. You see the video of the kid running off, or kid, 20-year-old or whatever, that just burnt your property down. What's the first thing you do to just move forward?
So Tony and I, he was there early. He was talking with, police, fire. We immediately called our CFO. Our CFO reached out to multiple insurance carriers because when you have something under construction, it's called course of construction insurance. So we have different insurance on the structures being built versus the existing structure. So there's two different insurance companies. We immediately file the claim, and then you've got to give them police reports. You've got to give them bids. And what we're going to do is, because this is our first time doing this, I'm going to get you all a giant checklist of what we're doing, of how, when you experience this, that what you should do and what we're learning. And then so Rochelle starts that. Tony's meeting everyone on site. And what I did was I called another homie, another business owner who does fire remediation, who works with insurance companies. Like if your house floods, this is the guy that comes in, and he's got a large business here in Snohomish County. And his name's Rick. And I said, hey, Rick, how do you deal with this? What do you do? And he said, would you like me to meet on site with you and Tony? I said, brother, I got to hop on an airplane, but I would love for you to meet my partner on site and work with him. So he's going to show up tomorrow when the insurance adjusters walk through the whole thing, make sure to answer the questions, guide us in the right direction. So one thing I always want to add is like, you just go find the professional. So we went and found someone who totally knows what they're doing to help guide us through the process, number one. And then number two, start filing the claims. Number three, what's super interesting, everyone starts reaching out. Are you okay? Are you devastated? And there's a little bit of stress in the messages I'm getting. There's a little bit of fear. And there's also this idea of like, oh shit, like how much money are you losing? So Tony and I are standing in the war zone. There's embers everywhere. We just put in new landscaping, just put in new fencing. Fencing's torched. And because they shot so much water onto it, there's just embers and ash and stuff everywhere. If the Everett Fire Department did not put this out because they started basically 3 minutes after the call and they had it out within 20 minutes, like just bam, it would have burned, because it got 4 structures. It would have burned probably like a half a block. The neighbors across the street on the west had like a ring camera, and they sent us the ring camera and the 4 minutes of it going, and you see this light and you see it all of a sudden get bright like the sun and 60-foot flames. And once again, I'm guessing, but they're so tall, it's no surprising that everything just melted around it.
Within like 5 minutes.
Within like 5 minutes. Because essentially, if it's just a frame home, it's just a giant matchbox standing there.
It's like a ready-made fire, like just.
And then that stupid kid, he obviously used some type of accelerant. And we put his picture up on social media. A bunch of other people did too. Then we've had news people, hey, do you want to be interviewed? Tony declined it. And I was like, well, I would have said yeah. So his picture immediately started getting circulating. And then they arrested him this morning.
Whoa.
Oh, they found him this morning.
Really?
Yeah. 1st-degree arson, 2nd-degree burglary, arrested some 20-year-old male. And you know he had to be local because in the picture, he's wearing short sleeves. It's freaking winter. And he's like casually running down an alley at 1 o'clock in the morning with flames shooting out. It's pretty obvious where he just came from.
So all these people are calling you, including me. It's funny. I was one of those people that text you. I was just genuinely making sure you're okay.
Yes.
And just wanted to find out, obviously, because we talk all the time anyways. But what were you thinking, and how have you dealt with getting through this in the midst of not only this devastating fire of your property, but as well as like all these people like projecting their own fears and concerns whatever on you?
Yeah. It's funny. I think my friends and the people on social media are angrier than I am. I'll be honest. I was kind of in shock and anger for half an hour. And then I was like, well, this is like everything in life. Control the controllables. Is this controllable for me? No. Okay, cool. Put a period on the sentence. That's done. What's controllable for me? My next sets of actions. Cool. I can immediately start on insurance to limit the loss as quick as possible. We can figure out what to do. We can call other professionals. We can get this moving as fast as possible. All right, that's what we're going to do. Tony and I walked around the site. We assessed it. I'm the optimist. He's a little more the pessimist. It's what makes it a phenomenal business relationship. And I go, brother, what do you think this is? Like, how much? Because there's 4 structures that are affected. And he goes, $250,000. I was like, yeah, I was thinking 200,000. And so once again, I'm the optimist. He's a pessimist. Reality is this bill's probably going to come back at like 225. Now, insurance will cover a part of that. But the thing that people don't get is like, when you experience loss like this, it prevents the cycle of capital. It doesn't mean I'm going to get it all back. It doesn't mean I'm going to get paid on everything. The power had to be shut off because all the power is in for all three structures. And the freaking power conduit melted into the ground. So there's live power sitting right there. It's a possibility because this thing was burning so hot that the water supply line coming into the house is just gone and melted. That we're probably going to have to, we know we're going to have to dig up the electrical. We might have to dig up the water. We might have to dig up the sewer because this thing burns so hot.
And literally reconnect at the street maybe, or like closer to the street.
Reconnect somewhere in the ground.
Yeah.
But definitely what it was coming into the house is melted into the ground. So there's some part that's going to have to be reconnected. So we're just trying to assess what are the controllables? How can we move this forward? What's the next logical step? The other thing too, that I think a lot of people are not prepared for setbacks. They're not prepared for the obstacle. Ryan Holiday wrote a phenomenal book, and that's the guy he's all about stoicism. But the book is called The Obstacle is the Way. And when you look at this specifically, this is a massive obstacle, but that obstacle is your way forward. That's your process on getting through it. So we know we're just going to go solve this. And we're so happy no one got hurt, because if the fire department didn't get there quick, there's so many houses around this, it could have quickly or easily burned a house. And, I'm okay. Property can be replaced. Time and money, I'm okay with that. But like, if that arsonist got another human, I wouldn't feel okay with that. Like that's not acceptable.
Yeah, good for them. I guess with that being said, what are the other things you're thinking about in terms of construction? Because I imagine you guys had other contractors that were ready to do things.
Yeah.
Your team was probably going to do something. You have to haul all that kind of stuff. And how much does this delay you? And what's like the next steps after that?
So the next steps are, we're going to meet with the insurance people, but then we also have to secure the property. So large construction fencing is being dropped right now just to make sure no one walks through and injures themselves on a board or a nail or debris. We got to rip the sheeting off of the south one, resheet that, get that one secured, because we got to get one of them secured and dried in just to prevent further damage. And then the second they say we can knock it down, we're going to immediately knock it down and just literally start over. So our electrician is on vacation right now. Blue water, white sandy beaches. He got a cell phone call. Brother man, Mayday. The second you get back, we need you to rewire. We need you to do the same job you just did 3 weeks ago again today. And he goes, brothers, I'm sorry. I'm there for you. One of the other guys that's an excavator called and said, hey, do you guys need anything? By the way, I know 3 of the businesses right there if you need cameras. So a lot of our network is reaching out. And what we're doing is we shifted our focus over to a couple of our other projects that will hurry up and get done. And as soon as they say okay on this one, we'll come back. But the reality is it will delay us 3 to 6 months no matter what.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you said, it's not just will you get all your funds back? It's just delaying a lot of stuff, and that has a cost to it. I definitely want to ask you what's kind of your advice, or what have you learned? But do we want to read some of these comments
let's read some of these comments. These are funny.
Explain what this post or this site is, and then where these comments come from, and let's read a couple of them.
Yeah, so once the gentleman was arrested this morning, Como News, which is a local news station, posted the first thing, and it was immediately sent to me by multiple people. Man arrested for first-degree arson and second-degree burglary. And these were just the comments on the Como News website, just kind of going to show you what people think or feel about these situations. So what's the first one say?
Everett is a nucleus of degradation.
Oh, jeez. A pure example of what happens when you mix soft on crime policies with people addicted to it. The builder or the business doing business in that city should expect nothing more. Man, that's kind of harsh. I get it. So Everett's a really big city. It's the largest city in Snohomish County. Snohomish County is the county right north of King County where this property is. And Everett has been going through some growing pains, and it's had a homeless problem. It's had a crime problem. But here's what I believe and why we've been investing there. I believe Everett's in the process of changing. And I'm one of those people who I'm willing to give people a second chance. And number two, I think it's an opportunity as things start to change. But yes, I agree. Crime has been a problem.
Next one is maybe instead of 5-foot setbacks from the property line, it should be 10 feet for the sides. No reason to cram people in so close together. Anyways, that would keep fires from spreading as much because this fire did spread to some of the other properties.
Yeah. 4 structures were affected and, one burned all the way down. Generally speaking, in Washington state, from a side yard, there's a 5-foot setback, so 10 feet in between. Problem is, like you're saying, when there's only 10 feet, these structures are going to burn each other, especially when there's accelerant inside of it. What this commenter doesn't realize is that in our wonderful, lovely, tree-hugging state, that we are not adding to the buildable lands inventory. And so therefore, the only thing we're going to get in the future, the single family home in Washington state, in the Seattle metro, is freaking endangered. And so all we're going to get is tight, more and more, unless we can get different politics and different voting.
Next one is maybe quit trying to make us into Scotland would help. That one's harsh. Yeah, if you don't know, Scotland's going through some, seems like pretty strict kind of laws that aren't really ideal for a free country.
Yeah, and it's creating a lot of civil unrest.
Yeah.
I don't know how to respond to that comment eloquently. What I know is that Washington state as a whole in the Seattle metro has to get tougher on crime, more pro-housing, more pro-middle class, and more pro-small business. And there's things that need to be done to support that to keep our society, our local communities safe and secure.
Yeah, and this actually leads to one other comment. I just want to do 2 more comments, but the one talking about how this is going to make insurance more expensive, and it's why insurance is more expensive, hence why it's important to have a law-abiding citizenship or whatever, like people, citizens, and then law enforcement to keep the peace, basically.
Yeah, so this person, part of why insurance is so expensive. Insurance is so expensive because the insurers have paid out more money since COVID and due to climate change, than they ever have. So insurance is rising. These fires, when they happen, they burn so quick and so hot. We've never had one. And so you have to realize I've been paying into insurance for real estate projects, since 2005. So for 20 years, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that. 20 years I've paid insurance and never had to use it. This is the first time. But all of a sudden you have to use it. Now it's $250,000 bill. I guarantee I haven't paid in $250,000. Absolutely one reason why insurance is so expensive.
Yeah. That's a whole nother discussion. I think that would be a great podcast, by the way, is literally just talk about the insurance industry and its effect on real estate investment. Yeah. A last one I want to read. It's kind of hilarious. It comes from Tobias. They say, running down an alley at 1 a.m. just as a fire begins is totally normal.
Totally normal. There was one other one on here where I think the guy responded back and he said, whereas someone running down an alley in Skycomish at 1 a.m. is just trying to beat Last Call at the Tavern.
I'm actually surprised that Como got this many comments. Okay, 2 things. You mentioned the checklist. Yep. How do people get the checklist of how to deal with, some kind of fire or disaster and dealing with insurance? Like, how do they get access to that?
Yeah, right now, because we are totally going through this, so this will take us a while to put this together, but you can reach us at rsg.com. We'll put a link in the show notes, and we'll give you an insurance checklist of things that you should go for and look for when you're experiencing some type of loss and how you should communicate with them. Because we're literally building this SOP right now. And once we have something built, we're a machine. We're happy to provide that with our listeners.
And then that last question is, what was it that you learned and you would want to share with people that are dealing with some kind of fire disaster with their property or rental property or just investment?
The first thing I would say that I've learned is you always need a disaster plan, a backup plan, and you need the just in case insurance. I've met investors who don't get course of construction insurance, or they don't get the umbrella policy. I will tell you, insurance is annoying to pay for, but it's the cheapest protection you can get until you actually need it. And what I've learned so far is, one, the power of social media. I believe social media and then the local news stations caught this person like that quick. That was less than 24 hours. Boom, they figured out who did it.
That's pretty crazy.
That's wild. So if you have something that's open and notorious and there's some evidence, get it out there on social media. 3, slow down. Control the controllables. What can we control here? What can we not control? Great. This emotional stuff I can't control. I can take action on these results. 4, keep some prudent reserves. Keep some extra cash. Keep the rainy day fund. Keep that around, because if something will happen, it's more like when something happens. So yeah, we just went on a 20-year run, but guess what? It happened. And it's most likely going to happen to everyone during their career if they're playing for a long time. So the most important thing would be to get the insurance and probably get more of it than you think you need. And we're going to keep sharing our journey with everyone along the way. I'm sure we're going to learn an absolute ton about this. So subscribe for more, and we'll keep chatting with you.